Hey, welcome back to the Lam Podcast. My guest today is a commerce student. He's the host of the Life with Lam podcast. He's also a national powerlifter, and he's one of the most genuine and authentic people I know. So it's great to have him as the second guest on my podcast. Jadyn Lam, great having you.
Thanks for your time, Legend. It's lighting me up that you're starting your own podcast. I feel like it's a good thing that people are hopping onto it, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And yeah, thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
Yeah, man, of course. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, your podcast was definitely an inspiration, and yeah. For anyone that's wondering, I will be linking Jadyn's podcast, Life with Lam, in the description later on.
A cheeky shout out. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it so
yeah.
much.
All right. So yeah, Jadyn, who is Jadyn Lam?
Jeez,
Hard
straight with the
question, I
hard.
know.
Yeah, no,
Hard
hard hitting
question.
questions. Straight into it. Who is Jadyn Lam? Jadyn Lam. Yeah, I guess I'm a commerce student at the University of Melbourne, majoring in marketing and management. You'd say probably like the more chill, domain, within the commerce degree and the faculty as well. But it's something that has always struck out to me. I feel like I've always been pretty entrepreneurial. In terms of like content creation and have always put myself out there in a way that best reflects like who I am. And thank you for the compliment about being genuine and being true to myself, because I think like that's someone that I've always aspired to be. And it helps when parents are such great role models. Like my mom is a PT, actually had her PhD, but decided not to use it and is now running her own business. My dad juggles multiple jobs and is a contractor, and I guess embodies that typical 9 to 5 work ethic, which has definitely been instilled in me. And it's this really nice combination of parents who support me, but also want the best for me. And I guess like that's a little bit about me. In terms of future opportunities, I'm still in that little loophole as to what do I want to actually do. I think we're part of this narrative of primary school, high school, going to uni with the best possible grades, and then you're out into the workforce sort of thing. And it hasn't been something that I've resonated with, hence the podcast. And that's
Mm.
like why I'm continuing this venture of interviewing people as to, I guess, the walks of life they've taken and what they do. So it's a little bit about me in a little nutshell. I don't know where you wanted me to take that, but
No,
yeah.
no, thanks for that. That was perfect. Yeah. Back to the genuine and authentic aspect of you. It's definitely something that I've always admired about you, and your like willingness to always pursue something that not everyone is like really willing to do, and like the hard work that you put into it. That's definitely something that like I've definitely admired. And obviously that comes from your parents, but I think you've definitely taken that into your like own pathway. So yeah. Um, yeah, I mentioned earlier you started you started your podcast like 4 years ago, I think. Um
Yes, I did. I started it in 2018, and in the first
wow.
take of your intro, you said it's been going strong for 4 years. I feel like I want to interject there a little bit. Life with Lamb has been a little passion project of mine that I've embodied for the better part of 4 years, and it's been really rewarding in the sense that it started off as an inspiration from Ryan Higa or Niga Higa off
Okay.
YouTube. I was always that YouTube kid, picking up the camera, making skits, filming friends, always very like out there with like the content that I made. And I just think it always stuck with me. Particularly in year 7, I was a YouTube kid. Unfortunately got bullied over it and like teased
Ah,
as just as you do. And like by no fault of anyone's, like it's just sort of the society that we're raised up in, where the tall poppy syndrome is very real, and when you put yourself out there, people just want to dial you back a few notches. So it was something that I did experience. So YouTube, I guess it never really took off in the first place, but I did sort of put that persona of mine on the shelf and let it sit there for a bit until 2018, where I saw the podcast and it was like, oh, you get to chat with friends and debrief about life. And being the classic content creator, wanted to buy a few microphones and sit down with a few friends, and it sort of evolved from there. I did put it aside for VCE, but picked it back up in uni, where I guess like we're in the crux of it, where we're looking for job opportunities or like the next best thing in your part of your life, where you're starting to earn a salary wage and go into the big wide workforce. And I just think like I want to know how other people do it and what sort of lights them up and like their passions. And like that's the whole preface of the podcast.
Yeah, that's great actually. I feel like the podcast is like almost the perfect format for you. I don't know if that's like really true. Obviously, you've put a lot of time into developing your confidence and your ability to interview people. Um, it's funny you say you started as a YouTube kid. Like, obviously, I never got to watch any of those videos, but I know you've gotten back into vlogging a bit. Would you ever go back to vlogging in the future, or like the traditional YouTube content
Yeah,
rather
it's fu-
than
it,
podcasting?
it's funny. It's funny you say that, Legend, because I think I literally just had a coffee with someone this morning and we're talking about how, podcasts are this next big thing, and it's sort of this like side profile that people adopt. Like you see people like Logan Paul have this platform already and then start Impulsive, or you have influencers who are already big and then they've already got this following and people want to know about them, and then it's this sort of side thing. Whereas Life with Lamb has always been the predominant platform as a long form content. And in a world where TikTok is available and you're scrolling through all the time and you have this short-term gratification, it is kind of hard to stand on your own 2 feet. And then I guess you transition that to YouTube, and then parallel that with being my genuine self. It's like YouTube can be this really high quality produced video. It can be scripted. It can be X, Y, and Z with B-roll footage and everything. I just don't think that's me. I think
Okay.
I'm very much like I want to sit behind and know that people can listen to my voice and listen to my thoughts as the true form of myself and what's coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, that's a good take actually. I've never thought about that. I always just take YouTube as like entertainment and I don't really like notice what goes on behind the scenes. So you would have a lot more insight into that. Um, yeah, moving on. This podcast is pretty new. I started like yesterday, although I'll probably release this episode like in a week. Do you have any tips for new podcast hosts? Obviously,
Yeah.
you've had like multiple years of experience. Yeah, so I think
Yeah,
you'd be perfect
definitely.
with that.
It's it's not as simple as, oh, I'm gonna buy some microphone, sit down, record it, and then put it up onto the internet. I mean, you can do that, but I think you're short, or you're kidding yourself that you're gonna be able to provide value for potential listeners, and then you'll find that, well, I've just spent X amount of dollars on equipment with no value, with no story or no reason as to why you've started it, other than the fact that, oh, it'd be cool to just chat with friends. And I think the first thing you need to uncover for yourself, if you are considering making content and podcasts, let's say, let's bring it back to that question, is what purpose am I trying to uncover with this podcast? Like, what message am I hoping to deliver? So, say for me, it's like I want to uncover what people are doing to get to where they are in a passionate state, because the people that I interview, they love their jobs. They absolutely love it. Whether they're a sparky, tradie, in a 9 to 5, or an entrepreneurial or a life mentor, like they all love what they're doing, and you can visibly see that. And they're the types of people that I want to interview. So I guess it brings it back to, before you even start your podcast, what message do you want to bring out there? Or are you just doing it for the sake of, well, everyone else is doing it, so I might as well?
Is that a question to me?
No, 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 that's not a question to you at all.
Okay.
And I love what you're doing, because I think like I can see how your brain is wired, and the types of people that you're going to get on, and like that's going to provide value, because people want to hear from CEOs. Like the first episode, I tuned into that and that was really insightful. Like those are the types of questions that you should be asking yourself. Like, is it actually like me wanting to do this, or is it something that is just because everyone else is doing it? um I guess for like, in terms of if you've already figured that out as well and like got the equipment and everything, it's like sort of what platforms you're looking at, but I'm not sure if we're diving into that. But I'd just say like, yeah, find your purpose as to why you're starting a podcast in the first place.
Yeah, that's great advice. For me, I kind of went I took the pathway that that is a bit strange. I knew that I wanted to meet a lot of like really cool people. Like after reading like a lot of books, I was like, damn, these people are like so cool. Imagine meeting them in real life. So this I kind of took this as an opportunity to meet some of like the really cool and interesting people that I've read so much about. And hopefully I'll be able to learn something from those people like you, like Michael Batko yesterday. And use the podcast as like a platform to share things that I may or may not learn. Yeah.
No, I love that. And I was literally chatting to someone today as well. We chatted for a while. He was saying that podcasts are the new sort of coffee meetups. But what he meant was he doesn't drink coffee, but essentially he texts people, "Oh, do you want to get a coffee?" And then you get to the cafe because I was like, "Oh, what's your coffee and order? What's your coffee order and everything?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't drink coffee." I was like, "Wait, what?" So it really confused me. But then he was like, "Oh no, this is like my rationale behind it." And then it made me think like, I get to meet some of the most incredible people who I can now call my friends, because we've been able to have this intimate chat about like their life journey and everything. And it's a very vulnerable chat. Like you
Yeah.
are opening up your whole career pathway, the hardships that you faced and everything to like a complete stranger online. And it lights me up. Like people reach out to do that. Like I don't think I can think of anything better than that.
Yeah, I think it's like a great way for connecting. Yeah. Like
100%.
getting coffee is just getting like it's just kind of like a euphemism for connecting. And it's really just like the entire globe getting coffee kind of connecting. Yeah.
Definitely. It's that social glue. It's like what sort of social glue do I need to take a page out of that person's book?
Yeah, yeah. Um, for your podcast, like you mentioned, speaking to people who are in different career paths, kind of getting their insights and helping with your decision making to kind of pick which kind of career you want to go down. Um, you've had like 70 episodes now. Do you have a better idea of which kind of career path you want to go down?
Yeah, good question, Legend. If I'm being totally honest, no.
No?
Like I would say I put myself and my best foot forward towards any opportunity. Like I'm very involved in the university clubs scene, very involved with yeah, the powerlifting scene as well. And I think I'm just this very community driven person. And I'm a firm believer in it's not what you know, it's who you know these days, or even it's who knows you as well. So if I'm putting out, I guess like the podcast, say for example, and that reaches someone and they're like, wow, Jadyn, like, can you please help us with XYZ? And it has happened. I've landed a part-time gig doing like membership and marketing management for this triathlon club that I'm part of. And it's like such a privilege because I guess like as soon as you're putting your best foot forward and showing the passions and the hobbies that you love and you gravitate towards, people will start to think of you. You become top of mind because the expertise that you're delivering. I didn't really answer your question. In short, no, I don't know what
Yeah.
career pathway I'm wanting, but it's looking more and more like I do want to keep spreading these stories and sharing them to people so that they can take inspiration, not because of the career pathway, but more the work ethic and the values that are demonstrated behind it so that they could get to the position that they are in.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, I feel like the obviously you're still studying in uni, but to me, I feel like the entrepreneurial pathway kind of suits you like perfectly. Like that I am a bit biased, obviously. Like I personally like the entrepreneurial pathway a bit more. I don't really like the idea of studying in uni, like studying in high school, studying in uni, going to studying law, and then you have to study a bit more after that to like be able to practice law in Australia. And then you're straight to the bottom of the hierarchy doing all the work that no one really wants to do. And you can honestly be replaced incredibly easy. Like I don't really find that a fulfilling pathway. And I think you're sort of in a similar spot. And yeah, the entrepreneurial pathway just it's like you have one life, do the most you can with it, and that's where you'll feel most fulfilled and rewarded at the same time.
100%, man. I couldn't agree more. And you saying the like bottom of the hierarchy thing really struck out to me because I guess if you think about it, you know, you start kindergarten, you're at the bottom of the hierarchy, you work your way up to the top, unquote. But then there's primary school, and then you work your way up to year 6, and you're like, oh, we're the big boys of the school, or big girls. And then you come into high school, and you're like the bottom of the food chain again. So then it's like, at what point do you not become the top of the food chain? And not that you have to be, but at what point are you not chasing to be this top person?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the same with uni. It's the
There's
same
always
with
there's always
going
a
into the
bigger fish.
workforce.
Yeah.
100%. And I guess like that could be very close-minded in terms of like, oh, well, that means you're just narrowing your focus. But I think it's like, why not step aside from the systemic hierarchy and create something of your own? And I think that's like, thank you for the compliment towards the entrepreneurial route, because that's like exactly what I see. And I think like my mum's success in her field has like bled down into me, and I'm like, I can do that. I can achieve something entrepreneurial.
Yeah. In terms of like getting a job and being at the bottom of like a law firm in that hierarchical system, it's not a bad thing. Like I definitely
Not at
respect
all.
the people who go out and take the like put in the hard work and actually like take the long route of like working their way up. Obviously someone has to do it, yeah. But in terms of like, I don't know, it's entrepreneurship is like, if you're going to really have to work your way up, why not start with like the biggest challenges, solving the problems that everyone has, and taking all the accountability on yourself, so that you actually have um you kind of have um like when you do the work that you do, you take full credit and reward for actually accomplishing what you accomplished, rather than your manager or
100%. Like I'm so aware that there are jobs to be done, and that we all start from somewhere as well. I mean, like, look at yourself with the podcast. Look at myself, like almost about to graduate and going into the big wide world. Like we're gonna start somewhere, you know, like we're never gonna be like at the finish line until we're our deathbed. So it's like, why not make the most of it? And it might sound selfish in that way, like being entrepreneurial and solving those problems for yourself. But something that I've learned from probably my most recent episode was that you can't rely on other people to solve the problem that you want to solve, because no one's ever going to see that problem in the same at the same level that you are. So say with podcast editing, like I've always been like, oh, like damn, it would be nice to have like a podcast editor or someone who would take over my content. And then that person that I interviewed, Ben Hargreaves, he said no one's going to see eye to eye. Like, as much as they say that they believe in the podcast and that they're really excited about the opportunities and everything, like no one is going to on the same level. No one's going to be on the same level that you see your podcast at. Like, it's just not going to happen.
yeah, because it's your podcast. You take the
Exactly.
accountability and responsibility for that. Yeah, and that's really
Exactly.
entrepreneurship. I don't think it's selfish to do that. And yeah, there's a lot to entrepreneurship too. Like there are lots of people solving problems and developing products and solutions that people genuinely need. Like they don't know that they need it at that moment, but when you're solving a problem and yeah, when you're providing a solution that people genuinely need, obviously, like I don't think it's selfish. It's like, if they genuinely want it and need it, the financial reward for the entrepreneur is monetary, because they're providing value that someone like genuinely needs. So yeah,
Definitely, man.
yeah, it's like, it may be a bit selfish, like a little, but they're helping a large amount of people. So I think I wouldn't say it's necessarily selfish, but yeah.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Moving on. You've actually, yeah. So like, we'll stick to the career path. There's uh, there's this thing where it's kind of like a training exercise, where you kind of think, if I had all the money in the world or no money at all, what would I do? Yeah. Have you ever taken your career path into, like, have you taken that thinking into your career path at all, or like, what would I
Interesting.
really be doing? Like, what do I want to spend my money doing? Because obviously, that's what people first think of when they're thinking about getting a job. Yeah, like,
Yeah,
how do I
definitely, definitely,
make
definitely.
money?
Um, I would counter that and say I think we're in this narrative where it's pushed on us that, you know, it's like level on level on level, where it's high school, graduate with the best possible ATAR, go into uni, finish that, and then go into your masters or go into the job. But I get where you're coming from, and it's this conversation of like, can you monetize your passions? Because like at the end of the day, sometimes you can't monetize your passions, and like something that you want to do, you might not necessarily be able to make money from.
Mm.
Um, so it's a really interesting question, actually, Lucian. You stumped me here a little bit.
I got him.
It's yeah, no, it's something that I think about all the time, and you know, I go to uni, and you know, I think you put out the energy that you put out, and then people who are attracted to that will obviously stay around a little bit. And I think in the first year, like since I was doing the podcast and not really enjoying my time at university, um, it a lot of people I felt resonated with it. And then it's gotten to this point where we're in third year, and then a lot of those aspirations and things that they would talk about have slowly declined. And then it's more like, well, we'll revert back to this narrative. Like I might as well just like go to the grad program, or might as well just go into the workforce sort of thing, because it's like, well, that's the only thing that's going to make me money.
Yeah.
So it's one of those conversations that like I'm finding really uncomfortable. And whether that's like an insecurity of my own, because I don't know, maybe I'm not like driven enough to find a grad job or those sorts of things. Um, that could be an entirely different conversation as well. But yeah, I'm sort of stuck in this predicament of third year where it's like things are getting like serious, quote unquote, where the rush and the pull of needing to do more and working harder and finding a salary job is so prevalent. I just think like we have so much like time on this earth. Just because you've done your Euro summer or traveled Asia throughout like December, or during summer, like doesn't mean that you've gone and seen the whole world. So why tie yourself down to like this great paying job and those sorts of things?
Yeah, I think yeah, everyone definitely sees the world differently, of course, and everyone has different goals and what they want to accomplish out of life. Getting a job right out of uni, it's like not necessarily, in my opinion, it's not necessarily what I think people should be doing. And obviously there's that conventional career path where people just go to high school, go to uni. If they don't know what they want to do, they do a master's or yeah. I've never really liked that about society, to be honest. Like
And
there's
I think like think of the cohort that has just graduated out of COVID as well. So you and I were both part of that 2020 year where we're at the peak. This is our high. Like this is the euphoric sensation of graduating, and all the sentimental memories are created here because we finally finished high school. Um and then I think like I reckon 90% of us probably just went into uni because we
yeah.
were locked down, we couldn't travel, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't even work on the side as well, unless you worked at like Coles or Woolies, like things that were considered necessities. So, at what point have we experienced anything in life? At what point were we able to find ourselves properly, whether that be through travel? And it doesn't have to be through travel. I know that so many people are privileged in being able to travel, but it could have been like working a few odd jobs here and there, and then being like, oh, like I actually really do enjoy doing that, or going for road trips even as like a lower version or tier of traveling. Like when did we have the opportunity to do that? We were literally chewed up and spat out into university, and then we're going to be chewed up and spat out into the workforce again. And you can tell yourself that you traveled or experienced the world maybe for a few weeks, but that's probably it.
I think that's actually like a really great point. Like obviously if you're just spending all your time in school and going into a job, it's like you're not truly like experiencing everything that life has to offer. And with experiences, that's where all your learning like actually is. In terms of like odd jobs, even if you're not getting paid an extraordinary amount of money, you're still learning what it takes to talk to people, to be able to have different communication skills, kind of have like absorb what every different type of culture has. And if you're traveling, that's like a really great opportunity. But are you like really experiencing every different culture, having not traveling to each tourist destination in each place, like actually experiencing what every country has to offer. And yeah, there's just so much time for that. And I think
100%.
conventionally it's just not like accepted that everyone should do that. So yeah.
100%. I would say like I am on this bandwagon, but my partner is she's going to be a doctor. Like she's going to be studying for a very long time. And like credit to her, she loves it, and that is the life that she wants. It's actually a really refreshing juxtaposition between like our relationship, because me on one hand, like I'm like, oh, like I couldn't see myself doing this X, Y, and Z. And then she's like, no, but like you should follow this like pathway because like
It's safe. It's
I'm doing it.
safe.
It's safe,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like it's secure, it's stable, and I love her for that. Like I love her so much for that, and I'm so happy that that's how she sees it. And I think like when you put it down to number wise, like if we timeline it, I'm gonna be out of uni when I'm 21, and then I'm gonna be out of uni when I'm 21. Finish my like undergrad and everything. She has finished her undergrad already. She's a year above. So she finished when she was 21. She's going to do 4 years of postgrad. So then she's going to be 25. And then on top of that, she's going to have to specialize and do placement, et cetera, which will
So
take
much
another
time.
3 or 4 years. So at the end of it, at the end of her journey, she is going to be 30 odd years old. I have, and you juxtapose that to my timeline. I'm out of here at 21. I have 9 years to figure out my life if you compare it in that
Yeah.
sense. So I think that's a lot of time. And if you use that productively, you can definitely do things. You can definitely make things a reality.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, I really respect like the hard work and dedication that it takes to actually become a doctor. And lots of people get into that profession because they want to help people, but there are so many ways to help people. So like, yeah, it's like spend the time while you're young, like doing what you really want to do.
Oh, geez, I'll tell her not to listen to that, but
Oh, okay. Oh shit. Yeah, don't tell. Oh, all right. Well, we can move on
no,
to
it's all good. It's
Isika.
all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the I had like a brief opportunity to meet her at your party, and she seems like an amazing person, but at the moment she still isn't like the butt is like not even crazy. She's in New South Wales at the moment. Am I right?
Yep,
Yeah.
she is.
Do you want to kind of talk about the kind of long distance relationship between you two and like
Yeah, of
how that
course.
must be really hard? Yeah.
Hey, like, so yeah, there's moments where like you really miss her and like you miss the physical company of it. And yeah, like a lot of people that I've spoken to have said, "Oh, like how are you doing long distance? Yeah, like it must be so hard." Um, and I did a podcast on long distance relationships,
Yeah.
of course, like who who wouldn't have? But I think, sorry, not I think. I know that we're managing very well, and I think it only suits a certain pairing of people. So for context, like we both get along so well because we're just like go-getters. In her right, it's like towards doctors, like becoming a doctor, sorry. And in my right, it's like juggling part-time job, podcast, uni, gym, etc., etc. So our pies are both very, very full. And I think the fact that it is so full still has benefited our relationship. So I'll put it into context. Like when we were together, she is taking up X amount of a pie that I have because we all have 24 hours in a day, and that 24 hours has to be allocated across a
Yeah.
certain amount of time, a certain amount of activities. So most of the time, like gym would make way for time with her, or like editing a podcast would make time for her. So she was essentially taking up a little bit of that pie, and this sounds very negative and everything, but
It's okay.
like no, I guess what I'm trying to say is like I think we're at that point in our life where we are so comfortable with each other and each other's company, and when we do see each other, it's the best thing in the world. But for the lives that we live, like we wouldn't really have that much time together anyway.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like she is studying probably 8 hours a day and she's living out of
Wow.
home. So she has to meal prep, she has to get her gym and training in as well. And she has to socialize on top of that. So where in that pie is she gonna fit me in? Like, is it in between tutorials? Is it in between lectures? That sort of thing. And then for me, it's like I'm working a lot of the time and then I'm podcasting a lot of the time. So when am I gonna fit her in as well? So then it gets this point where, we really appreciate the good mornings and the good nights. But then when it comes to like we're seeing each other, that time is really, really special. And I think it's taken away the idea of, when couples get toxic, or even like when you're hanging out with a friend too much and you start to get sick of them, and
Yeah.
then you sort of take some time off and don't see them for a little bit, and then it just becomes the best thing in the world. Like you guys are best friends, you've made up, and nothing's like a drag anymore. It's sort of like that, because you sort of don't know what you're missing when you're surrounded by it 24/7. And I
Hmm.
think you have to learn in relationships that you need to be independent of each other, and you have to have your separate lives outside of each other as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. There is a such thing as too much of someone. Yeah. And
Mm.
yeah, I've obviously observed you guys a bit. I don't know you guys that well, to be honest, but yeah, you two definitely, I feel like, make a pretty good match. And yeah, best of luck to you guys.
Appreciate it. I hope that like helps with anyone, like, and whether that's people tuning in for a long distance like tip or two, or even if it's with a friend and those sorts of things, like, and you're in the same location as well. Like, if you're feeling burnt out in a friendship, don't just cut them off straight away. Maybe take some time apart and just see like whether that will amend it. Because when you're so focused in and dialed in on a particular thing, that is all you see. And then you start to illustrate the negatives of it.
Hmm. Um, yeah. Taking time is always good, especially for yourself. Yeah, everyone's got to have their own thing going on, and yeah, once you're like focused on solely one thing, you always kind of like miss the people who've always been there for you. So yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing. Um, kind of one more point on that is since you guys are like distance wise so far apart, how do you guys like communicate, or recommend to others who are in long distance relationships to communicate and kind of spend time together, whether it's like
Yeah, cool.
watching Netflix together on
Yeah,
Discord or
definitely.
something?
No, 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 I love it. So she's not a gamer girl, unfortunately, or fortunately, it depends how you see it.
I'd say that's fortunately, to be
I'd say it's
honest.
fortunate too. I don't. I feel like, yeah, gaming Jaden's just not it. But um, so yeah, there's a few cute little apps that you can download on your phone. Like, how cool is it that we live in a world where technology is like so up to date and so accessible to everyone? We really love the widgets app, or even just Be Real. Like, we're taking Be Reals and everything,
Okay.
so at least you have that like visible aspect of, oh, this is like what they're up to today, sort of thing. You'll have the location, but like I'm not that person that's gonna be sitting there like watching her every
Yeah.
move, sort of thing. So, but it's like nice and reassuring when she's like, oh, I'm going out, and then you know that she's getting home safe and everything. There's things like widgetables, I think, so you can see like how long you have until you're seeing each other, or how far apart you are. But although I don't know if you want to see how far apart you are
Nah.
at some point. So yeah, it's things like that. I would say like um some people are like, oh, you have to text and call every night or FaceTime and those sorts of things. I think it's actually the opposite. Like texting here and there is really good. Like just giving a bit of like a rundown as to like our days, and quite a lot of the time it's like a shopping list of things that need to be done. So we're just like, okay, we're gonna do a good morning, good night sort of thing. Like, we do make time to call each other, whether it's each night or every second night, to just be like, oh yeah, like, good night, how was your day, sort of thing. But I think if you want to make those sorts of things last and the communication to be really strong, isolate time for them, like make schedule them in, and it sounds very business-like, but you have to make time for them as well. And they'll understand that, like, you're not going to be available 24/7 to be able to chat, because you guys have to live your own life, sort of thing. But when you separate that time and segment that hour or two together to like, yeah, Netflix party and chill, or making a dinner and just like eating that together over FaceTime. Like those things are really memorable, and like it makes it more worthwhile in terms of the relationship.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty cool. To anyone listening, long distance relationships, they can work. I also see you sometimes randomly on Instagram you'll post like, hey, I'm in Sydney now. Like, so you guys do meet up. So it's not like
Yeah,
you're
at the end of the day, it's only Sydney, so it's like a plane ticket away.
that's true.
I'm very fortunate that like my parents are very um happy with like our relationship, and offer to take me to the airport and everything. Like I'm so grateful for that as well. So yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really rooting for you guys to be honest. Like, again, I don't know you guys that well, but I'm really rooting for you guys. Like in 10 years, for example, like you if you're around, hopefully you guys are. Okay, I'm not saying anything there. Like when you look back on like memories, like Zoom calling in COVID, or like eating together over video call, like it's not great, but it's memorable and it's like something that you both go through together. So yeah, that's definitely like it's a cool experience. I feel like
Definitely.
obviously not for like an extended long period of time, but I'd say
Oh,
it's pretty cool.
actually, yeah, that's actually really important, that point. Like you need to know like your end goal, like what is going to happen out of this. So um at the moment we're still we had a picture, and then it's sort of like something's thrown a spanner in the works. So I don't want to reveal too much on that, but yeah, have an end goal in terms of like what's going to happen in the long term, like a year on, 2 years on, 5 years on, that
Mm.
sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have a goal, and obviously goals can change. Like with like building a company, for example, you have a goal that goal can change. You're always trying to um solve a problem for your customer. That problem and that customer can always change, and yeah, it's good to have goals can change though, and it's always important to realize that you can pivot rather than just going for something that, if like both parties don't want something, there's no point trying to achieve something that no one wants. Yeah,
Definitely. I love that word pivot. It's great.
pivot.
It's a great word.
Yeah. I hear that so often now. um okay, back to your podcast. Well, I had this question: what is the biggest mistake you've had or made, and what did you learn from that? Yesterday when I interviewed Michael Batko, you you might remember, he said the biggest mistake he made was as an intern in at American Express, where he was doing some budgeting and like P&L spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets. I don't know what he was doing, but when he was getting all the data and numbers, and when they were budgeting, he kind of did the currency in like the wrong currency. Like
Yeah.
he might have
Didn't you
done it like,
overshoot it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like for
Yeah.
like the projections for like the next like 4 months or something was like way off, and they're like, what's going on here? That was like his biggest mistake, and he's kind of taken that into his life now. What would you say your biggest mistake was, and how'd you learn from that?
Yeah. Geez.
Hard question too.
Yeah, it is a hard question, because like I guess I'm at that point where like the life experience isn't all there.
Yeah,
It sounds like from Michael's story, like far out, being in charge of all that pressure is
like, and you're an intern.
exactly, you're an intern as well. So it's like I've heard stories where interns have like had pretty high expectations from their like supervisor and everything. But I'd say, I guess I'll just dial it down to like a podcast perspective, is that uh, and this is something I'm still working with today. It's like you don't have to be perfect with the content that you're putting out, or you don't have to be perfect with the output. As long as you show up and make those adjustments each day, I think that they'll improve on a macro level over time. So small, meaningless, quote unquote, actions result in big, large developments.
I kind of love that point actually. Like, it's not about being perfect on day one. It's about like showing up and gradually getting better over time. And you can kind of see that from my first podcast actually. Like, obviously I was incredibly nervous. I don't necessarily have that confidence yet. But I plan to build it from day one, and like maybe on episode 100 I'll actually be what I want to be as a podcaster.
Exactly, right? I mean, like, listen to some of the, oh, sorry, shameless plug, but like, if you listen to some of the old podcasts that I have, some of the
I tried to,
questions
by
that
the
I've
way.
asked, you tried to.
There's no
You
season one
couldn't get
episode
through it.
one. There's
You
no
couldn't get through
no, there's no
it.
season one episode one. Like I was like, where is this, Jadyn? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Nah, I'm just like, I think I did it all chronologically because, yeah, it's just nice seeing like the amount of podcasts that I put out. But yeah, you listen to day one, like I cringe. I just,
Wait, no,
I
I don't think Day One's on your YouTube channel, by the way. You might
day one
wanna,
is not, yeah, because I
yeah.
only started videos. I think it was with Steven. That might
Uh
have been the only one, or Chris, or Chirothy, one
it
of them.
wasn't Steven.
Okay.
Steven's actually like a friend from primary school. Shout out to him. But yeah, it
Yes,
wasn't him.
love Steven. Yeah. So yeah, just say like you don't have to be perfect from day dot. And dialing it back to a podcast sense as well. It's a podcast, it's audio form. Just buy a nice mic. Like that's all you'll need, to be honest. People prioritize like all these fancy equipment and like cameras and everything, and you just don't need it. I record off an iPhone and then have managed to build my way up to like save for some nice mics. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
good.
that's great. Yeah, definitely start with what you have and just go from there. If you really like what you're doing, then obviously you can continually grow and invest. Um, with your podcast too. I'm pretty sure this happened. Your hard drive died on you.
Oh God.
That that's gotta have been like a pretty big learning experience. Like, how'd you deal with that?
Oh, did I even deal with that? Is the question, I reckon. Yeah, jeez. Oh, that really threw, I think, like a lot of um the drive and the motivation to like continue podcasting. And I know it sounds very dramatic, but if you think of the hard drive, like it had so much footage and so many files from all these different people just like vanish. It just absolutely,
On.
I don't know, tore
Yeah.
itself a new one. So I would recommend actually, on top of the equipment stuff, buying a good hard drive, because the hard drive I had was your stock standard, like um probably just WD, so WD Elements or something.
I have no
The
idea.
one that you get from Officeworks, like it's very
Uh
cheap. And that's it. Like you just pay for what you get, sort of thing. But yeah, funny you mentioned that. In terms of like dealing with it, it was obviously really annoying and um out of my control. And I want to touch on that point of like it was out of my control. And I think a lot of the people the that I had interviewed whose footage was lost, they were so understanding about like these things happening, and technology not being on my side. So it was actually really nice to be able to like take that step back and sort of zoom out and be like, well, I don't have like full control over my hard drive at the end of the day, and it's gonna, like, these things will happen, and it's sort of like, how do you address it going forward? So I think it just happened at a point in my life where, you know, it's semester ends, so it's like very pointy. All the assignments are due, your exams are starting soon, and it just did not happen at the right time. So in terms of dealing with it, I probably just took a step back from podcasting a little bit. And I was talking to a friend about it. I was like, I feel so bad, like not releasing episodes. And they were like, Jadyn, at the end of the day, it's like you're the one that's making it, and people will tune into like something that you're making, whether like whether you are taking a break or not. You shouldn't have to like apologize for that, because it's, at the end of the day, it's a self-driven passion project. Like that is what it is.
mm.
And that is the lesson of being like an entrepreneur. Like you have to put in the hours. No one is going to tell you, oh, Jadyn, like you've been slacking recently with the podcast episode. Like a couple people did, like they're like, oh, I love tuning in every Wednesday, but they're not coming out. And I was like, yeah, look, like I'm sorry, like this has happened. And normally they're very like understanding of it, but it's not one of those environments in a workforce where, say, there's KPIs to hit, or metrics that you need to reach, or deadlines that need to be due. Like all of it is on you. And
Yeah.
I had to sit back and talk to myself and be like, Jadyn, like if your heart is in it, why don't you go do something about it? Like go record more episodes, make time for your podcast, make time for yourself to be able to edit, all those sorts of things. Because yeah, it was a matter of like flicking the mindset from feeling sorry about myself to just, yeah, doing those small actions that will hopefully equate to larger reward.
Yeah, that's actually really insightful, and I think it really says something like about your resilience and initiative to actually be back podcasting again. Because to be honest, I don't even know what I'd do, and I'd say most people probably would have quit after something like that happened. Like that's I'd say that's pretty rough. That would have been pretty rough.
Yeah,
And
not my best moment, but it's okay. We're here again and being interviewed by yourself. So yeah, just grateful as to where we are at the moment.
yeah, it's definitely I'm definitely a big fan of your podcast, to be honest. Like even preparing for this episode, I was watching your most recent one just to be like, um, how does he actually like control the conversation? What kind of questions does he ask? And like I kind of have to take a different perspective now that I'm actually the host rather than a listener.
It's a hard adjustment because you think that you can turn on a mic and just like have a general chat. And look, I tell a lot of my listeners this is going to be a general chat, but you're on record as well.
It's always
And
harder when you're recording.
exactly, everyone's a hero until the microphones come out or until the camera comes out, sort of thing. So it takes a lot to put yourself out there and ask these questions in a pretty structured format. So I commend you on it, and I'm keen to see like
Thank you.
where it goes, man. It's good.
Yeah. Hmm. I just speaking of challenges, I literally just lost what I had in my head. Yeah. All right. I think we'll probably wrap it up soon, but kind of like the last question or last two questions. Who are three people that you've really admired podcasting, and um who should I talk to next?
Yeah, really hard question. Hey, um, I feel like I just like discredit everyone if I if I had to only choose three.
Yeah, true. Who are three interesting people that I should talk to next? Yeah, that's the question.
I reckon you should get Ben Hargreaves on the podcast. He's a very switched on person, has done the corporate journey. Like he has lived it all, um, moved states, did university, hated university, but landed a graduate role, loved the graduate role, but then found a passion that was just filling this void in him, and then he's pursuing that. And like, what more can you ask for in life? Like doing something that you love and
Mm.
getting paid for it as
I,
well.
I I love those stories where you kind of just go all over the place, don't really know what to
Exactly. It
do,
was
but
this like up down path, and now he's just like absolutely killing it. So shout out Ben. I just did an interview with him as well,
yeah.
so that's why it's like top of mind. I'd also say Trang Nguyen. She's just someone that she's a women's mentor. She does like life coaching, and I know life coaching is this big like fad that's going on social media, but I loved her um journey from being a physio, which a lot of people aspire towards. They like set their dreams up to be a physio, and then she realized that like despite her achieving this and earning quite good money, she realized that she was just like her heart was just not in it. And I think that whole podcast was, how do you find like something that you can put your heart into and get paid for? And she, yeah, uncovered this sort of higher purpose in herself that I thought was just really admirable. And I can't, yeah, speak higher of herself. And then another one that I really enjoy is James Hargraves. So he 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 was my first strength and conditioning coach. And
Oh, nice.
the sentiment behind it was firstly that, but he has, at the age of 23 or 4 or 5, somewhere in that bracket, he's been able to own a gym
Wow.
or co-own a gym, and start a business that is tailored around like mobile disability PT services. So it's called See the Ability, and if I had my time again, I'd definitely want to interview him again, because I just don't think I did his story enough justice. He's just he's in Brisbane at the moment. Just like loving life sort of thing, just a bit of change of scenery. But his story was really awesome in the sense that he's so aware of his privileged upbringing, but instead of like abusing it and going down the pathway of, you know, like drugs, alcohol, those sorts of things, or just going into like daddy's company or mummy's company sort of thing, he's instead used his privilege to identify a need in a market where disabled people are not looked after and they don't move their bodies enough. And he's been able to use that and his privilege as a platform to build something that is very self-sustainable, and he's killing it. So yeah, shout out to those three. I could go on about like all the different stories that I've had, but
That's
yeah,
three.
if
That's
if
three.
if the yeah, if those are the three people, I'd probably recommend them.
Yeah, there's definitely three great stories, and yeah, I'd say they're definitely worth listening to. I don't even think I can say that I've only watched 2 out of 3 of those, and yeah, but in general, I'm no expert, but like kind of general career advice. Like I've read a lot of books on this, so I like have some insight to what I'm saying. You kind of have to like pick 3 things. I'm not pick 3 things. They're like 3 things that you kind of need to take into consideration. So like the first is your assets. So like what you're good at. Like it could be like your height, or like what you're genuinely interested in, etc., etc. Your aspirations. So what you actually want out of it, and then the market. So can you actually make a living doing what you're actually doing, what you actually want to do, or not? And yeah, that's like lessons from entrepreneurship that can be applied into your own life and career pathway. That's actually a book, something I got from this book. It's
Love
coincidentally
it.
right next to
I'll have
me.
to ask you for a book list, man,
A
because
book
it seems
list.
like you're pretty well versed,
There's
and like reading is something that I do want to get into. So it's good.
uh I'll message you after.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, final question. This was meant to be before, but I forgot. So yeah, that how's it been a guest on the podcast rather than the host?
I feel like I knew this question was gonna come.
Yeah.
Um, very interesting.
Interesting.
Not often do I get to speak about myself, so I really do appreciate you taking interest and wanting to get to know me. It's it's not something that I put myself out to be like, oh yeah, ask about my story sort of thing. I'm just genuinely curious about other people and how they work, and it's really um it's like really what's the word? I'll just say it's really rewarding to see that I've been able to bleed some sort of inspiration onto you, where you feel that I'm someone that you want to interview. So yeah, again, really appreciate it. I guess like to actually answer your question, yeah, weird. it's it's been an experience. Like not often do I reach out to people and say, look, like I've got this big story that I want to tell. I think like I'm very much this kid in a population who doesn't really know exactly what they want to do in life. And I think a lot of people are feeling that way. So if I can resonate with someone who's listening, or anyone that stumbles across this podcast, like then I'm happy, you know?
Nice. Yeah. Of course. Like, thanks for that, by the way. It's like definitely like a real privilege, and I'm like really thankful that you actually took the time to join the podcast and share your insights. Yeah.
Of course, anything to support you. So yeah, I'm keen for more episodes, man. Like I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks, man. We're in short supply with the guests at the moment, but I will continue to try grow the podcast, and yeah. Yeah, so that's probably like a good place to end it. If anyone enjoyed the podcast, or think they know someone who would be interested, please do me a huge favor and share it with them. Thanks.